Welcome to the King of the Court podcast with Ben Riggs and Ben Staten.
Welcome to the King of the Court podcast. I'm Ben Riggs. This is Ben Staten.
Yo.
So we just wrapped up first night of NBA Cup Quarterfinals. Had Orlando versus Milwaukee, Dallas versus sort of Dallas versus OKC. It was really just OKC beating the shit out of Dallas.
That was one of the most thorough ass whippings you'll ever see one superstar, put on another superstar. I don't think Luka Doncic is actually aware there was a game today. He was awful tonight. Like, objectively awful. He had more turnovers than assists. He was 5 for 15. He had 16 points. And those 16 points are inflated because he had 4 points with 3 minutes left in the third quarter, and then got on a fake hot streak run. Just a shambolic performance all around, and one, quite honestly, that has fit in a pattern for the team of 2 steps forward, 1 step back all year. I think that this is a team that has potential. They have good pieces, but they're clearly not where they need to be. And, I think that there is reason to now question whether they will ever get there. The Dallas players, I think they're probably going to be a little embarrassed by this. I think that they need to go back to the drawing board and realize they got some work to do if they want to be a serious competitor in the West this year.
I agree with some of that. I think most of it's a massive overreaction. I think that for fuck's sake, Dallas lost the first game of the playoffs last year to OKC by way more than they lost tonight. I think that, I can't say that this was a good game from Dallas. But I'm not going to sit here and go down the road of if they want to be a serious contender in the West. That seems like cartoonishly overstated, because when you look at the Dallas Mavericks, I still think even after tonight, I still think, really without any cognitive dissonance, that Dallas is.
You going to say they're a better team?
Yeah, Dallas is a better team than OKC. First of all, let me give, before I even go into all of this, let me give OKC their props. Shai Alexander had a masterful performance tonight. Truly elite shot making. I think that the big difference in the game, though, was not Shai Alexander's shot making. The big difference in the game was the level of intensity that OKC played with versus the level of intensity that Dallas played with. There are 3 players on Dallas's team who I think played at or above their potential tonight.
Dallas came out with no intensity. There was random Three Stooges moments where Derek Lively couldn't hold the ball. Other moments where Luka Doncic tried the same pass over the top of the defense, like upon getting intercepted by Alex Caruso. But let's try that one more time, just to be sure. There were, Luka and Dallas acted like they'd never seen a double team before and were puzzled by the fact, but what to do. And then when they figured out what to do, it looked like they never practiced how to, pass the ball to the release valve man. And he would just hold the ball and be like, what should I do now? It was all around an objectively bad performance. And I think there's fault that lays with Luka. There's fault that lays with the general tactics of Jason Kidd, which, by the way, your tactics are probably wrong when you're doing the exact thing. You want to do the exact thing the opponent's defense is tailor-made to try to make you do, which is get the ball out of Luka's hands. But
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
And if there is anyone who happens to be listening to our podcast who knows Jason Kidd personally, please tell them that Ben Staten had a relatively keen observation, and that if your offensive strategy is to get the ball out of Luka's hands, and then you find yourself in a winner-take-all game where the opposing coach's strategy is to also get the ball out of Luka's hands, one of you has to be wrong. And I'm going to guess by the result of tonight's game that it's Jason Kidd.
Yeah, and if you're gonna, if your plan, this is the other one. If your plan is to get the ball, to like draw the defense out and get the ball to the release person, you have Kyrie Irving on your team. You can use him as the release valve. But he's a fantastic creator. He's maybe the greatest ball handler of all time. Why are you holding him up in the corner and using Quentin Grimes or Najee Marshall, who are not primary playmakers? Also, when you come out after the worst first half intensity wise of the season, and your adjustment is to take Luka off ball, which one is questionable, but not to move Luka, not to move Kyrie on ball, but to move Quentin fucking Grimes on ball. And that is one of the more perplexing adjustments I have ever seen anyone make.
So Stan Van Gundy has gained some notoriety for when he calls Mavericks games. What's the one thing Stan Van Gundy always says about Luka and Kyrie?
They're the greatest scoring backcourt of all time.
Greatest offensive backcourt of all time. Jason Kidd's like, check this out, Stan. I'm going to take them out of the backcourt.
The set offense they were trying to run, it got them completely out of sorts. It got Luka completely just removed from the game for 3 quarters, like three full quarters. He was just completely like non-entity,
non-factor.
Non-factor. There was
in fact, he was more impactful on defense than he was on offense.
Yeah, there was.
And that's not to say he had an amazing defensive game.
There was one point, I forget who was the main play-by-play announcer, but Kevin Harlan, he announced the stat that with 3 minutes left in the third quarter, Shai had 3 times as many points as Luka and Kyrie combined.
Yeah,
that is astounding. And I also think my biggest worry coming out of this, though, like I think Luka will figure it out. If they don't, then there's not like. If Luka can't figure it out, this is over. We can just all pack our bags and go home. But the bigger worry for me remains the center spot, where last year one of the big weapons they had that was sort of talked about but didn't get enough key was the number of second chance possessions they were able to generate by. They did this against the OKC and against the T-Wolves by their sort of volleyball taps out on offensive rebounds, tap to the perimeter. One with Hartenstein, that you saw that the OKC was better able to control the boards, significantly better able than they were in the playoffs. The other thing was, it was noticeable to me that OKC was running a sort of like infield shift, like the teams used to use against Barry Bonds, where they had Caruso on shots, was positioned specifically and tactically on the court to where they thought that Lively in particular was going to volleyball swat the ball out. They clearly had run tape and realized that, and he intercepted at least 2 or 3 of those taps. If that weapon is gone, that's actually like a significant strategic weapon. But also the Mavs bigs got like in games like this, and this is another reason why trying to get the ball out of Luka's hands when you have players who are bigs who are really unable to create their own offense is kind of a weird decision. But the Mavs centers have to provide some other type of offense besides rim running. Like we saw a little bit of the passing from Lively during the playoffs. He tried a couple of passes. There's passes like a lot of the Mavs things, they just weren't on point. Like a couple of them, like he tried to hit a player in the corner, but the pass was off, so he had to catch it like this and bring it back. But they just need to get more from the center position because today, Lively had Butterfingers and all that, but today Hartenstein outplayed both of them combined, and that just can't happen. They need a platoon to be able to outplay one of the OKC centers.
Yeah, so I mean, my takeaway is that, quite frankly, I thought Dallas was a better team going into the game.
Yeah.
I still think Dallas is a better team coming out of the game. I think Dallas played with a lack of intensity is an understatement. I think that it was clear from the outset that OKC wanted this more than Dallas did. It wasn't even entirely clear that Dallas wanted it.
That last part's very key. It's like, to be sure Dallas
Yeah,
was
yeah,
when
yeah.
there was
I
a game
mean, like
tonight.
it's an understatement to say OKC wanted it more. I'm not sure. I'm not sure Dallas really even challenged them for it. I agree with you completely that the entire strategy, the entire idea of wanting to get Luka off ball, is made even more confusing by the fact that like every opposing coach is like, yes, please, but like you know, the thing. So like, I do think that Jason Kidd has to reconcile whatever plans or objectives he has with creating a different style of offense using Luka Doncic, with the reality of who Luka Doncic is. Luka Doncic is a heliocentric on-ball player whose size, shiftiness, his ball handling, his playmaking, his shot making ability, all of those things make him a unique matchup nightmare. And you're a fool if you don't utilize it. I do
100%.
not think Jason Kidd is a fool. I do not know what the hell Jason Kidd is doing. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, thinking like maybe he wanted to test this idea against what he believes will be playoff competition to see how it works. But
Spoiler
right
alert,
from
it
the
does not.
outset, well, right from the outset, I think everyone needs to remember that in a single winner take all game, there is a great deal of variance, and that you can have the hot takes that react to this that say OKC is the better team. They're positioned to come out of the West. A couple of points I will bring up, counterpoints I'd bring up to that. One would be I've yet to see OKC win a single meaningful playoff series. Two, I don't think OKC's offense is anywhere near efficient enough to accomplish that goal. Three, if you're using this result from tonight as evidence of that point, I'll remind you that OKC beat Dallas worse than this in Oklahoma last year in game one of their playoff series. And that was the last time that anybody thought Oklahoma City was in control of that series. I do think Oklahoma City since then has addressed one of their needs in rebounding with Hartenstein. Lively had 13 rebounds tonight, which matched what Hartenstein did. And I agree with you that Lively appeared to be doing that with hands made of butter. Daniel Gafford did not bring any of that energy.
He got
And
hit in the head with a pass by Luka. Like maybe
yeah,
the greatest pass Luka set all year, and it
yeah,
just beamed the shit out of him. Like it
yeah,
was.
caught him completely off guard. He seemed to be caught off guard as a player running towards the rim open when his teammate decided to throw him the ball. But that's again another example of like Dallas just didn't seem to be in the game. That was
Not aware.
a comical example of it. But look, the overreaction. I still think Dallas is a better team. I'll remind people that Dallas was also missing about 9 rebounds and 14 points in PJ Washington tonight. But more importantly, PJ Washington's the guy who brings energy to that team. It is not an accident that Dallas has only lost 4 games with PJ Washington on the court. So, I think that they're going to have to work out. They're going to have to work out the Luka off ball kind of ideas. I'm not sure.
There's an easy way to work it off. We stop it. That we just stop doing it. The cold turkey approach, one highly recommended by Ben Staten.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you. No relapses.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Like I think that it's no one on that floor tonight played well except for Najee Marshall, Omax Prosper, and Klay Thompson. So
The big three.
yeah, well, that's how everybody expected it before. I was kind of stumbling through because I was looking something up. So this season, with PJ Washington on the floor, Dallas is 15-4. They're a completely different team with him out there. I think some of that is his rebounding. I think some of that is his defense. I think some of that is his ability to plug gaps in the offense, because PJ has become a relatively efficient scorer, because when his three-point shot isn't falling, he does a really good job of attacking closeouts and posting up smaller players. And I think that with PJ back, you're going to see a completely different team. I'll also remind everybody that for whatever reason, I have no idea what the reason for this is. PJ Washington just seems to own Oklahoma City. He turns in career games every time he goes there. But here's another point I'll raise about Oklahoma City. I don't want to take anything away from them. They played a great game tonight. Shai put on a masterclass. Shai's shot making is absolutely elite.
Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Every team, you and I have watched Oklahoma City play Denver, Dallas. There's been several games. I don't remember who all they were playing. I think I watched them against, I know I watched them against Chicago. That swarming defense has befuddled every team they've gone up against. One of the things I think that you're going to see is that in between now and the end of the season, and particularly in preparation for a playoff series against Oklahoma City, this doesn't just go for Dallas. This goes for everybody they would face. Teams are going to be prepared for that. And when you have professional basketball players, especially ones that are elite enough to be in the playoffs, prepared for something like that, opposing teams are going to get a lot of open shots.
It's going to make a legit difference for sure.
Whenever you have players like Luka and Jokic acclimated to that and going into the game calibrated for it, I'm not saying that Denver. I feel more confident about Dallas beating OKC. I'm not saying Denver is going to beat OKC. I am saying Jokic will make you pay for that.
Yep.
He did not the first time, but he will the second time.
Yep. No, I think that there's some truth to that. I think that there's also some truth that sometimes the intensity will be more even on the play by the time the playoffs come around.
100%.
This is a type of defense that you typically see more at the youth level. This type of swarming, small guards, just sort of at the ball, and there is a novelty element to it that you don't see. I think you mentioned in the first half that Dallas likes to ease in the games right now, and OKC did not come into this game wanting to ease, and I think Dallas never got their footing and never got situated, and I think the crowd intensity also played a big way. Props to the OKC crowd. They were booing. You could hear the boos through the TV. This was a playoff atmosphere the entire game.
Oh, they're fired up for it. I mean, Dallas put them out of the playoffs last year. They absolutely controlled that series. OKC was eager. Everybody in Oklahoma was eager for the Thunder to match up with Dallas in the in-season tournament quarterfinals. And props to OKC. Props to Mark Daigneault, everybody on the team, the fans, everybody. They were geared up for it, ready to go, and they took it to Dallas. They beat the shit out of them. Dallas failed to match their intensity. Luka never got involved in the game. Kyrie never really got involved in the game. Derek Lively was sort of how he was when you first saw him right after he got drafted, where he was just all energy and really, nothing sharp about it. The only players on that team who played well were Omax Prosper, Najee Marshall, and Klay Thompson. I think there was also an element where Klay Thompson, even though he was playing well, had looked like he had a minutes restriction on him. I think he got 27 minutes for the game, even though he was lights out from three.
He started off hot. They benched him for the equivalent of an entire quarter bottom back
The
out.
only thing that makes sense to me with that is that he has that plantar fasciitis, and there's a lingering element to an injury like that. And Jason Kidd's just monitoring it, and that guy's on a minutes restriction. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. But I swear, I am not worried about the Dallas Mavericks. I think the idea that blitzing Luka is what caused the problems tonight is a complete misunderstanding and a lack of familiarity with who Luka Doncic is and how he plays. Luka was the most blitz player in the NBA last year, and he set the scoring record.
Yeah.
Luka can deal with blitzes. The issue
That was one of the more
Luka
perplexing
tonight,
things about this. Is like this isn't like this is a defense he's never seen before. Like this
he's
is
seen it more than anybody in the NBA.
yeah.
The problem is that there is an offensive system that they're either trying to implement or experimenting with, or hell, maybe Jason Kidd wants these teams to think this is what you're going to see when you face Dallas in the playoffs, and then suddenly you're going to get, on-ball Luka in the playoffs. I have no idea what the hell
I think you
Jason
invented a new form of like 16D chess right there. Like, yeah, Jason Kidd's actually running a fantastic rope-a-dope to convince him that he's a bad coach, only to spring out at the last second. Ha ha! I know what I'm doing.
Well, part of my thinking about Oklahoma City and sort of the youth and inexperience, not just on the squad, but the actual coaching staff, is I think that running this sort of swarming defense from day one will put you in a position when you get to the playoffs where other teams are prepped for it, and it's going to be more likely that it backfires on you than it benefits you. Whereas I think if you pop that on people in the playoffs, I think it would take them too long to adjust to it, and it'd be a problem.
I agree with that.
Like,
Well, I think it's interesting. I think that they view their competitive advantage not in the strategy, but in the fact that they have Case and Wallace, Dort, Caruso.
yeah, they threw 6 guys at Luka.
They can just throw these people, and that's having the bigger impact rather than the strategy. But like in the 90s, for example, this type of like strategy would have been held in reserve until game 1 of the series, where they would have just sort of sprung something this aggressive. But there's also something to say.
Oklahoma City's doing it at the very beginning of the year.
Yeah, there's something to say that OKC just wants to like put the league on notice that they are,
well,
that they are
to
big
me,
dogs.
that there is an element of that where it's like there's a balance in my mind. Like Luka and Jokic, I don't like. I see those two guys like as very fierce competitors. I see them have some contempt for some of the things the NBA does. The in-season tournament doesn't seem to interest either one of them. No. The All-Star game, I don't know if they'd prefer to do that or go get a root canal. I have no idea which one they're more interested in. Neither one of them take it seriously. But, LeBron has been this way. Where early in the season, he's less engaged, and you see LeBron more sort of come alive towards the end of the year. I think that has less to do with competition and more to do with conserving himself. But there are clearly teams and players who try to come out the gate hot and fast.
Yes.
There are teams that are more comfortable with ramping up. I think both Luka and Dallas have always been kind of a ramp-up team. OKC seems to see the regular season as their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They're dead set on being the best regular season team.
Well, they want to win every game.
Yes.
Not to say any other
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. No, it's actually what you would officially want. Like it's actually really refreshing to see. This isn't a team pacing itself necessarily, and quite frankly, they're young enough that they can go all out more often. And they have deep enough rotations. But no, I think we also just need to give them some credit. Like, let's make sure that people here we're giving them credit in the sense that we talked about Dallas missing PJ Washington. It's important to note that OKC was also missing Chet Holmgren. Like this wasn't like a full strength OKC facing a depleted Dallas team. I think so. Uh, this was a emphatic victory, an emphatic performance. They should feel really excited about this and where they're at. I do not think that this is the victory that this is they're the prohibitive favorites in the West.
This is where they were last year.
Yeah, but if I was an OKC fan, I know for a fact that I would be like on cloud nine right now, running my mouth and
1,000%. Yeah. Look, there's no way to skin this cat other than to say the best team tonight was OKC.
Yeah,
unquestionably.
Yep.
And if we're just going to break down this game, OKC played with far more intensity. They knocked down shots. They moved the ball well, and they had a defensive strategy that somehow dovetailed perfectly with the offensive strategy of Jason Kidd.
Where both coaches, like literally mirrored.
Yeah, I've never seen in any sport where both coaches have a strategy that's identical in regards to what they want to do with one player. I've never seen a coach say, we really got to get the ball out of Luka's hands, and another coach go, well, hold on.
I agree.
I will do that for you. Like,
seriously, thanks, bro.
Take a step back, Art. Let me do my job.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't foresee that being a problem that you're going to have in the postseason. And I'll say this. If you are going to have that problem in the postseason, Jason Kidd's job would be in danger. Because if it comes down to, are we keeping Luka or Jason Kidd?
You don't think Jason Kidd makes the cut?
Yeah, I don't think Jason Kidd's going to win that one. And basically my point is Luka isn't an off-ball player. Doesn't matter what strategy or scheme you come up with. It's just not who he is. If you want him to be an off-ball player, then you're going to have to make him a power forward.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other way around it. And everybody just keeps getting confused by the fact that he has PG in front of his name, so they think he's 6'4", 210. He's not.
He's 6'9", 270.
Yeah, I don't know if he's quite 270, but like, that.
Well, if you listen to Tim McMahon, he's 350. Okay, know. So, yeah.
But I think you're probably talking about a 6'8", 6'9" guy who's somewhere in the 240, 250 range, and to think that you're going to have him playing off ball a la Steph Curry, you're insane. And here's the other thing. I don't think there's very many people who want to move Luka off ball.
No.
Now, you might not like his style of play. You might not prefer that on your team. But you're not going to say, let me have Luka and turn him into an off-ball player. You're either going to say, I want that on my team or I don't.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And so if we get to the playoffs and we're dealing with off-ball Luka, I think Jason Kidd's going to be, Googling Zillow. Like I don't think there's any shot that that's going to be sustainable. But all that said, Oklahoma City played a phenomenal game. I still have, OKC was the better team tonight. I still think Dallas is the better team, has a better chance of reaching the NBA Finals. I think they're better built for the playoffs, and I think that the performance you saw from Luka and Kyrie tonight will be an anomaly moving forward. And I also don't think that this whole swarming defense thing, I think, is something that a lot of teams come playoff times will be able to pick apart. Real quick, it's not that it wasn't. In fact, it was a better game. The Orlando-Milwaukee game.
Yeah.
It was a better game than the OKC-Dallas game. I think the outcome was more predictable. But look, I know who won the game. I know Giannis had a great game. I was more impressed with Orlando.
Oh, Orlando continues to impress me. Their guts, They are a gutsy team. Jalen Suggs, they're. What's so exciting about Orlando is that this is now the second player that you're starting to see take a major leap. Second young player. Suggs already plays defense at an All NBA level. Hounds defenders, physical, strong, super athletic, but he can create shots for himself. Like he lived like the missing question that's sort of been hounding Orlando this entire time has been what do they have someone who can be a primary creator at the guard position? Because their guards have been really defensive focused. If Suggs can show that he has the ability to, create shots for himself, and he averages 4, 5, 6 assists. That's it, and like if he can get to 20 points, if they suddenly have 3 players who are 20 plus points a game scorers, that solves what has been Orlando's Achilles heel, which has just been offense. Like they just do they have enough weapons to win the playoffs? The defense, no one has any questions about that. Their defense is going to translate. But what he was doing tonight. Now you got to take everyone who plays against Milwaukee's perimeter defense with a grain of salt, to an extent. No, being down their 2 best players and still coming out and playing so well, you got to tip your hat to Orlando. That was a gutsy performance, and that is a really, really, really good team.
Yeah, I think that if you're Orlando, you look like a genius for locking up Jalen Suggs.
For 5 years, 150, yeah.
Yeah, you look like a genius. You've got a core in Suggs, Wagner, and Paulo Banchero that with those 3, you're going to be in contention in the East for a long time.
Absolutely.
And I thought that they did what we talked about, putting Mo Wagner on Giannis and Wendell Carter, and having somebody at the rim to help out a little bit. Giannis got his, but they really did a good job of containing everyone else. Dame hit some timely shots, particularly that 3 over there on the wing towards the end of the game. But I agree with you. I think the big takeaway is Jalen Suggs' abilities at the offensive end of the court.
Yes.
All right. Well, we had a good night of NBA basketball, at least kind of a good night. Dallas disappointed a lot of us, I think. But Orlando and Milwaukee came through, had a great game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gave us a great performance. That was fun to watch as well. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk about the Golden State Warriors versus the Houston Rockets and the New York Knicks versus the Atlanta Hawks. So until then, take care. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast, and subscribe on YouTube, like the video, share it with your friends and family. Anything you can do to help grow the podcast, we greatly appreciate it. And thanks for watching.
All right. Peace.